Hey everyone. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. It really helps YouTube recommend more stories like this one to you. Alright, let's jump right in.
The first time I heard him humming, it was just past midnight, and I was brushing my teeth. It wasn't coming from inside my apartment, but it wasn't outside either. The sound was faint, but sharp, this low, almost childlike melody, like something you'd hum to yourself when you're trying not to be afraid. It was coming through the wall. At first, I thought it was the guy in 3B. I'd never actually met him. Just saw a tall shadow once behind the frosted glass of the apartment door. He moved in a few weeks after the last tenant disappeared. Like, literally vanished. Rent unpaid. Mail stacked up. Building manager said she left in the middle of the night. No forwarding address. Anyway, 3B had been quiet ever since. No TV, no guests, no music. Until the humming. I rinsed out my mouth and pressed my ear to the wall. It stopped immediately. Silence. I figured, whatever. Old buildings make noise. People hum. Maybe he's a night owl. I went to bed, but the next night, it happened again. Same time, right around 12:15 a.m., same melody. And this time, it was closer. I sat on the edge of my bed, heart thumping, trying to pinpoint the sound. It wasn't coming from the wall this time. It was outside my door. Not knocking. Not pacing. Just standing there. Humming. The peephole looked normal. No one was there. I even opened the door a crack. The hallway was empty. Just that dim yellow light and the hum of the ice machine down the hall. But then I looked down. Bare feet. A faint wet footprint just outside my doormat. Like someone had been standing there, watching me through the peephole. Watching without breathing. Without moving. I slammed the door and triple locked it. The next day, I caught our building manager in the lobby. "You ever talk to the guy in 3B?" I asked. She gave me a weird look. "Nobody's living in 3B." I blinked. "What?" She leaned on the front desk and sighed. "The guy who applied ghosted me. Never signed the lease. Unit's still empty." I laughed like maybe this was a joke, but she just looked tired and serious. "No one's got keys to that place but me," she added. "Why?" I didn't answer. I went back upstairs. She was wrong. I knew someone was in 3B. I'd seen them once. That silhouette behind the glass. I'd heard them. The humming. The footprints. So that night, I stayed up. I turned off all my lights. Sat on my couch with the TV muted. I waited. 12:10 passed. Then 12:15. And there it was, faint but clear. This time, it came from the hallway again. I grabbed my phone and crept to the door, quiet as I could. I held my breath and peeked through the peephole. There he was, standing with his back to me. Just standing there, not moving. Wearing a faded hoodie, gray sweatpants. His arms hung stiff at his sides like he didn't know what to do with them. The humming stopped, and then he turned around so slowly. Painfully slow. Like he was trying to move in frames, not real time. His face was pale, almost colorless. His mouth moved, but I couldn't hear anything through the door. His eyes, Jesus, his eyes were wrong. Not scary like monster eyes. Scarier because they looked so normal, but empty. Like he was trying to mimic being human. He leaned forward suddenly, almost like he could see me through the peephole. I jerked back and held my breath, heart hammering in my throat. A full minute passed. Maybe 2 when I looked again. He was gone. The next morning, I knocked on 3B's door. No answer. I tried the knob. Lock. But something smelled weird, like mildew and sour milk. The air was colder in front of that door. Like the hallway heater didn't reach it. I walked down to the manager's office again. Told her everything. She looked half concerned, half annoyed. Okay, I'll open it. You want to come with? I hesitated, but I said yes. She fished out a big ring of keys, and we went back upstairs. She slid the key into the lock. It didn't stick. Just turned, smooth as butter. The door creaked open, and it was empty. Totally bare. No furniture. No carpet. Dust on the floors. Nothing inside but a single folding chair in the far corner, and a thick black line of grime trailing from the bathroom to the wall we shared. The smell was way worse inside. Like rot, wet drywall. Something that had been left alone too long. But there was no one in there. She walked around, flipping lights on and off. See, nobody here. Then she muttered, "Why the hell is the window open?" I hadn't noticed it before. The living room window was halfway open, even though it had rained the night before. She closed it, locked it, and looked at me. "You good?" I nodded. But I WSN single quoted, because on the inside of the apartment door, eye level, right across from where the peephole would be on my side, was a smudge. A greasy, pale handprint. That night, I set up my phone camera. I balanced it on the bookshelf facing my door. Hit record and left all the lights off. I stayed in my bedroom, trying not to breathe too loud. No music. No TV. No sound. At exactly 12:13 a.m., my fire alarm beeped once, that high. Sharp chirp that says battery. Low, but it had never done that before. I froze. Footsteps outside my door. Barefoot, wet, slapping gently on the tile. The humming started. Again. Closer. Slower. I couldn't bring myself to move. I sat in bed, staring at the sliver of hallway visible through the open bedroom door. The light in the living room flickered once, then twice, then it went out completely. Didn't sleep. When the sun finally came up, I checked the video. At first, there was nothing. Just a dim shot of my front door, grainy in the dark. Then movement. 12:14 a.m. The hallway light shifts. My door handle twists. Not violently, slowly, like someone was testing it. Then a faint knock. So faint you'd think it was the wind. Then, at 12:15 on the dot, a shape passed in front of the camera. Just for a second. But enough to catch it. A face. Staring straight into the lens, not pressed up to it. Not walking past. Just suddenly there. Then gone. I scrubbed the video back a dozen times, trying to pause it, frame by frame. Every time my stomach flipped. Because the face. It wasn't mine. It wasn't anyone's I recognized. But it was staring like it knew. I was going to watch. Part 2. I didn't go to work that day. I couldn't. Every time I blinked, I saw that face again. That second of footage. The pale face appearing dead center in the lens. It wasn't just creepy. It felt intentional. Like whatever it was knew I was recording. Like it wanted me to watch. And it wasn't just fear now. It was dread. The kind that settles in your chest like a sickness. Makes everything feel wrong. Makes your own home feel infected. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe it was a trick of the light. Maybe the camera glitched. But when I checked the footage again that afternoon, I paused it right on the frame where the face appeared. And that's when I saw a dot in the reflection on the peephole. Was me. Standing behind the camera. Frozen. Looking straight ahead. But my own reflection. It wasn't moving. That night I didn't sleep in my bed. I crashed on the couch. TV on low. Every light in the apartment blazing. I kept the hallway light on too, just outside my door. I needed to feel like something was normal, even if it WASN single quotesy dotted around 1 a.m. I must have dozed off. Only for a minute. But something pulled me awake. No sound, no movement, just that off feeling again. Like a weight pressed against my chest. I sat up. And my living room window was open. Wide open. I hadn't touched it in weeks. I never open it. It faces the alley, and the lock sticks. But now, it was open just enough for someone to slide through. I rushed to shut it, heart pounding. The lock was wet, cold, like someone had touched it with wet hands. I slammed it closed and turned around, and the humming started again, not from outside, from my hallway. Inside my apartment, I froze. I didn't want to move. Didn't want to breathe. The humming was soft, calm, almost playful. I stepped toward the hallway, slowly, barely lifting my feet off the floor. The lights flickered above me, then they buzzed. That strange sound fluorescent lights make right before they die. And everything went dark, total blackout. I stood there, breathing hard, trying to calm down, and in the dark, I swear I heard whispering, not words. Just sound. Like someone trying to speak through water, and footsteps. Barefoot, slow, moving toward me. I backed up until my legs hit the couch. Then the humming stopped. Dead silence. When the lights came back, nothing was there. My hallway was empty. The front door still locked. But something had changed. The air smelled old, like wet wood and something decaying. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Didn't even sit down. Just stood with my back against the door, waiting for something to happen. But nothing did. The next morning, I packed a bag. I was done. I didn't care if I lost the lease. Didn't care if it made me look crazy. I was getting out. I was halfway through grabbing stuff from my closet when I noticed it. On the inside of my closet wall was a hole. Not big. Maybe the size of a tennis ball. But it hadn't been there before. Fresh splinters around the edge. Drywall dust on the carpet. I got down on my knees and looked inside. Pitch black. Turned on my phone light and aimed it into the hole. What I saw made my skin crawl. An eye, not moving. Just there. Wide open. Bloodshot. Watching me from the darkness behind the wall. I stumbled back so fast I knocked over a lamp. My heart was slamming against my ribs. I grabbed my phone and snapped a picture, but when I looked at it, the hole was empty. No eye, no face. Just darkness. But I knew what I saw. I knew. I left. Didn't even lock the door. Took my bag, got in my car, drove to a hotel 15 minutes away. I didn't sleep, but I felt safer. Like I'd escaped something. I stayed there for 2 nights. Didn't tell anyone where I went. Ignored calls. Just kept the curtains closed and checked the peephole every. The first thing I noticed was the smell. It hit me before I even touched the mailbox. Sharp, sour, and metallic. Like something rotting inside a wet paper bag. I stood there for a second with my key frozen in my hand. Just staring at the little dented box with the peeling label that said, 1C. Our mailboxes were all lined up outside the building, same beige color, same rusted corners. But mine smelled wrong. I opened it slowly, bracing myself for some dead animal or a busted package. Instead, I found teeth, real human teeth, just sitting there, scattered across the bottom like they'd been poured out of a jar. A couple still had blood on the roots. A molar was cracked in half. One of the front teeth had lipstick on it. I don't even know how long I stood there. My brain just shut down. I didn't scream. Didn't freak out. I just closed the mailbox like I was afraid they'd spill out, and then I backed away. Slowly, because in that moment, I already knew whose teeth they were. Her name was Lorna. She lived 1 floor up in 2A, retired. Sweet, always smelled like peppermint. The kind of older lady who never missed a birthday and always offered weird old candies from a glass bowl that probably hadn't been cleaned since the 80s. She'd lived in the building longer than anyone. Over 40 years, I think. Said she was around before the walls got repainted and when the basement still had coal chutes. We weren't close, but we talked a lot. I'd help her carry groceries, fix the TV remote, that kind of thing. The last time I saw her was about a week ago. She looked off, pale, shaky. I asked if she was okay, and she smiled, but her smile looked wrong, forced, tight. And she said something that stuck with me. They're trying to open something in the walls. When I asked who, she just blinked, looked over her shoulder like someone was watching, and mumbled, "They're in the vents again." I figured maybe it was dementia, or she was just lonely and slipping, but now her teeth were in my mailbox. I called the building manager. Mark, he's useless. Thinks every problem is either a tenant's fault or not urgent. But teeth? That had to qualify as urgent, right? I told him everything, shaking as I talked. I was still standing on the sidewalk outside the building, staring at my locked mailbox like it might open by itself. His response? Probably some sick prank. College kids nearby always messing around. I snapped. "There's blood. There are teeth in my box, Mark. What if someone's dead?" He sighed like I was wasting his time. Then he said, "I'll stop by tomorrow morning. If they're still there, I'll file a report." Still there? Like I was supposed to take the teeth inside with me? I didn't go back into the building that night. I couldn't. Instead, I stayed at a friend's apartment a few blocks away, just to clear my head. The next morning, I came back early, right after sunrise, when the light still felt safe, and the teeth were gone. Mailbox wide open. Empty. But clean. No blood. No smell, not even dust, like they'd never been there at all. I asked around other neighbors, mail guy, even the delivery driver I sometimes saw near the stairwell. Nobody saw anything. Nobody heard anything. And worst of all, nobody had seen Lorna in days. I went up to 2 that afternoon. Knocked twice. Nothing. Then I listened. I heard something, faint, like scratching. But it wasn't from the apartment. It was coming from the vent beside the door. A soft rhythmic scraping sound, like nails on metal. I backed away. I went downstairs, grabbed a screwdriver from the utility closet near the laundry room. Don't ask me why. I wasn't thinking straight. And came back. I knelt in front of the vent and started unscrewing the cover. The scraping stopped. My ears were ringing. The hallway was completely silent. The kind of silence that makes you hear your own breathing, your heartbeat, the creak of your knees on the floor. I pulled the vent cover off and shined my phone light inside. At first, I didn't see anything. Then way in the back, deeper than the vent should have gone, I saw something move. Just a flicker. A twitch. Like fingers curling around the edge of the duct. I dropped the screwdriver, and the smell hit me again. Worse this time. Wet copper. Old rot. And something sour, like bile. I stumbled back, reattached the vent cover with shaking hands and left. I didn't knock again. I didn't want to know. That night, I heard someone knock on my door. I froze in bed. It was 3:11 a.m. No footsteps in the hall. No voices. Just 3 slow knocks. I stayed still. Then, I heard the sound of something being slid under the door. Soft. Dry. When I finally got up and looked, it was an envelope. Inside, a photo, black and white. Grainy. It showed my mailbox, open, with the teeth still inside, and scrawled in pen across the bottom, "You weren't supposed to see it yet." Part 2. I stared at that photo for a long time, longer than I want to admit. My hands were shaking, but I couldn't stop looking at it. The picture was blurry, but those were definitely my keys hanging from the mailbox lock. The same dent on the box, the same crack in the concrete under it, and the teeth, scattered just like I remembered. The words scrawled under the photo burned into my brain. "You weren't supposed to see it yet." What the hell did that mean? See what? Yet? Who decides when I see a box full of human teeth? I should have called the cops. I should have called someone, anyone. But my stomach was already telling me what they'd say. There's no body. No proof. No teeth anymore. And I live in a building with 1 surveillance camera, and it's been broken for months. Mark says it's pending maintenance. I was alone in this. I didn't sleep that night. I sat up on the couch with every light on, clutching a baseball bat I hadn't touched since high school. I kept looking at the photo, turning it over in my hands like it might offer more answers if I just stared hard enough. There was something about it that felt off, like it wasn't just a photo of the teeth. It felt like someone had been watching me, like whoever took that picture had been nearby. I turned it over again. There was something faint on the back, indentations in the paper, like someone had written something and pressed hard. I shaded over it with a pencil. A room number appeared. B2, our basement. I'd only been down to B2 once when I first moved in, looking for the laundry room and accidentally taking the wrong stairwell. It was dark, dead silent, and smelled like wet stone. I never went back. That morning, I forced myself down there. I told myself I was just going to peek, just to look. I didn't even tell Mark. He never answers his texts anyway. The stairwell to B2 didn't have a light switch. The bulb overhead buzzed like it was burning out. I held my phone light in front of me like it was a shield. The hallway was narrow, walls sweating with moisture. You could smell mold in the air, thick and damp like it was alive. I passed a couple of rusted storage units and old maintenance lockers, all padlocked, all labeled with peeling numbers. Then I saw it. B2-09. The number had been carved into the door, not painted, carved with something sharp. I stepped closer. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You're not ready. I dropped the phone, literally dropped it on the ground. The screen cracked. The flashlight flickered, and in that half second of darkness, I thought I heard breathing right behind the door. Slow, wet, like someone with something thick in their lungs. Then, nothing. I picked up the phone and ran. I didn't even stop at my apartment. I left the building completely. Sat in my car for hours, parked 2 blocks away with the engine running and all the doors locked. That night, I booked a room in the cheapest motel I could find. I didn't care about the roaches or the flickering lights. I just needed distance. I stayed there 2 nights. I told myself I'd go back, pack up my stuff, break the lease, and never look back. But the 3rd night, someone knocked on my motel door, 3 times. Same rhythm, then a pause. Then the humming started. Soft, like it was being done under someone's breath. That same creepy little tune Lorna used to hum when she was carrying groceries up the stairs. I didn't move. I just sat on the bed, holding my breath. Then, a whisper. Just outside the door. You opened it too soon. I didn't open the door. But in the morning, I found something slipped under it. A single piece of notebook paper. 1 line written in tiny block letters. The rest are in the walls. I broke my lease the next day. Didn't even pack. Left furniture, dishes, everything. Just walked out with a suitcase and never went back. Mark didn't ask questions. He didn't even fight me on it. I think maybe he already knew. A week passed, then another. I tried to get back to normal. Started seeing a therapist. Got a new apartment with a normal mailbox. No creepy neighbors. No humming. But 2 nights ago, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. No stamp. Inside, a black and white photo of my new mailbox. CLOSEDA. Second photo, same box. Open. Inside it, a single tooth. And scribbled across the bottom, "We'll try again when you're ready." The first time I saw the smile, I was brushing my teeth. It was late, like 2 a.m., and I was zoning out, staring at the wall across from the sink. That wall backs directly against my neighbor's apartment. Thin drywall between us. Old building. You hear everything in here. Coughs, TVs, fights. Sometimes you don't even know which side the sound's coming from. But that night, I noticed something different. A shape, like an outline in the wall. Slightly darker than the paint. At first I thought it was a stain or some bad patchwork, but as I leaned closer I realized it was a face, pushed up against the wall from the other side, not fully visible, just faint contours, like someone had their cheek pressed flat into the drywall. I could make out the curve of a forehead, the ridge of a nose, and then a mouth, smiling, not just a smirk, a full grin, stretched wide and frozen, like someone holding a laugh in their throat. I froze. Toothbrush still in my mouth. Heart THUDING. The face didn't move. I turned off the light and stepped back. And just like that, it faded. Gone. I didn't sleep that night. I told myself it was stress. Or the lighting. Maybe moisture warped the paint and my tired brain turned it into a face. But the next night? Same thing, 2 a.m. I turned on the bathroom light, and there it was again, only this time the face was clearer, pressed even closer. Like whoever was on the other side wanted to be seen. The smile was wider, the mouth curved in a way that felt wrong, too long, too deliberate. And this time I could see teeth. I knocked on the wall. 3 quick taps. No response. Just silence. And then a low sound. Not words. Not humming. Just a breath. Like someone was exhaling slowly through clenched teeth. I backed out of the bathroom and slammed the door. I didn't open it again until morning. Here's the thing. I live in 5B. The unit on the other side of that wall is 5C. The woman who lives there, Elise, is quiet. Keeps to herself. Friendly in the hallway, but barely says more than hi. Maybe early 30s. I've never heard a guy over there. Never seen anyone come or go. But after that night, I had to know if someone was staying with her. So the next morning, I waited until I heard her leave for work. Heels on tile, jangling keys, the soft click of her door. I gave it 5 minutes. Then I knocked on her door like I was just saying hi. No answer. As expected. Then I pressed my ear to the wall just outside her apartment. Nothing. Total silence. That night, I stayed awake again. Sat on the floor in my hallway. Waiting. 1:47 a.m. Nothing. 1:59. Still nothing. 2:06. I crept into the bathroom. The face was there again. But not in the same place. This time, it was higher up. Like the person was standing now. The mouth still smiled, huge, frozen, but the eyes were visible too. Just faint outlines in the drywall. And those eyes were looking down. Right at me. I whispered, "Who are you?" No answer. But then the smile twitched. Just once. I bolted. I decided I'd talk to Elise the next morning. Not in a weird way. Just casually. Maybe ask if she was having plumbing issues. See if I could catch a glimpse inside her unit. But when I opened my door the next day, there was a note taped to it. Torn line paper. Just one sentence. Don't ask her. No name. No handwriting. Just printed in faded pencil. My stomach dropped. I looked up and down the hallway. No one there. I peeled the note off, took it inside, and stared at it like it might offer more answers if I stared long enough. But that's all it said. Don't ask her. I didn't sleep that night either. At 2 a.m. I heard movement in the bathroom. Not the pipes. Not creaks. Movement. Like feet shifting on linoleum. Like breathing. I held my breath and stepped into the hallway. The light under the bathroom door was on. I hadn't turned it on. I stood there for maybe 5 minutes. Heart pounding, debating whether to open it. Finally, I pushed the door open with the end of a broom handle, like I was scared something would grab me. Nothing was inside. But the face? It was back. So close this time, I could see the skin through the paint. Grayish, damp, pushed flat against the wall. Like if I scraped the drywall away, a real face would be there. And that smile? Still frozen, still watching. I whispered, "What do you want?" And this time, the breath on the other side whispered back, "You." Part 2. I didn't go back into the bathroom for 3 days. I shut the door, taped a towel across the bottom, moved all my toiletries to the kitchen sink like a lunatic. I knew how that sounded. I knew it was irrational, but I also knew what I saw. There was a face in my wall, and it spoke to me. I tried to explain it to a friend over text, not just to say it out loud, or type it, to convince myself it wasn't real. I didn't go into detail. Just said something like, "Hey, you ever have someone watch you from the other side of a wall?" They wrote back, "Are you still talking about your neighbor? I thought you said she lived alone." I did say that, and I believed it, until the next night, around 2 a.m., I heard something new. Laughter, not loud, not hysterical, just this low, soft, wrong chuckling. The kind of laugh you'd hear if someone was trying to pretend they found something funny, but didn't understand the joke. It came from the wall again, but this time, not from the bathroom. It was behind my bedroom, and there's no unit behind that wall. That's just the stairwell. I knocked, not sure why. Instinct, I guess. The laughter stopped. Then I heard scratching. Slow at first, like someone dragging nails across concrete. Then faster. I backed away from the wall and stood in the corner of my room until the sun came up. When I finally opened the bathroom door the next day, the face was gone, but the outline was still there. Not paint, not shadow, a shallow imprint in the wall, like pressure had been pushing from the other side for a long time. And right where the mouth had been, the drywall had split, just barely, like it was cracking open from the inside. I went to talk to Elise. I didn't care about the note anymore. I needed answers. When she opened the door, she looked different, pale, hollow, like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. I asked her if everything was okay, if she'd noticed anything weird in her walls. She blinked slowly, like she had to process what I was saying. Then she said, "You shouldn't look at it." I asked what she meant. She leaned closer. "Don't acknowledge it. Don't speak to it. Don't give it attention. That's how it gets in." My blood ran cold. Before I could ask anything else, she shut the door. I stood in the hallway for a long time, trying to understand what she meant. How long she'd seen it. If it was the same thing watching me. If it was ever even her in that apartment, or something else. Back in my unit, I finally worked up the nerve to check the wall again. I pressed my hand to the spot where the face had appeared. It was cold, like a fridge door, like something inside was breathing frost. And then I felt it, pressure, a hand pressing back. I jumped away, stared at the wall, waited. Then I ran. I booked a room downtown. Told myself I just needed one night away, somewhere clean, bright, normal. But at 2:04 a.m., my hotel bathroom light flickered. I stared at the wall behind the sink. A different building, different layout. No way it was connected, but I knew what I was looking at. The paint rippled, and something smiled through it. I didn't stay the night. I drove around until sunrise. Went to a diner, sat there shaking over burnt coffee until they opened a booth. That morning, I returned to my apartment and found the hallway lights out and Elise's door wide open. I stepped inside. "Hello?" Silence. Her place looked untouched. Couch, photos, old perfume lingering in the air, but the bathroom door was shut. And behind it, a sound, faint, muffled. Crying. I opened it slowly. There was no one inside, but scrawled across the mirror, in something black and oily, were the words, "Smile back." I don't remember walking home, but I remember what was waiting. My apartment door had a crack down the center, not in the wood, but the paint, like something had been clawing from the inside. When I stepped in, every mirror had been covered. Everyone. Even the toaster's chrome face was taped over. And on the wall above my bed, a perfect imprint of the smile. Same size, same shape. Same wrong teeth. That night, I tried not to look. I turned off every light, put on headphones, tried to drown out the humming, but around 3 a.m., the power cut out and the bathroom door creaked open on its own. Grabbed a flashlight and aimed it at the wall, and there it was. Not just a face this time. A body, half pushed through the drywall, like it had melted into it. The skin a gray, pulsing membrane, stretched thin and breathing, and that mouth, too wide, too deep, opened slowly, like it was going to speak or consume. I turned and ran. I don't live there anymore. Don't live anywhere for long now. Every new place, same time. Same face. It finds the walls. It is the walls. It watches. It waits. It smiles. I heard footsteps above me last night. Long, slow, deliberate footsteps. That wouldn't be weird. Except I live on the top floor. It's just me and the roof. No one above. No one should ever be up there. At first, I thought it was something in the pipes. The building's old, built in the 60s, and everything creaks when the temperature drops. But these were footsteps. I know what footsteps sound like. They started right above my bedroom, around 3 a.m., heavy, almost dragging. Like someone in wet boots walking across an attic. Only there is no attic. Just a sealed crawl space, barely 2 feet high. I saw it during the walkthrough. The landlord even joked about it. Storage space for ghosts. But ghosts don't wear boots. The next morning, I climbed the building's back stairwell that leads to the roof access panel. It's always padlocked. It was still locked. Rusted shut. I banged on it once just to be sure. Solid metal. No way in or out without cutting the chain. But still, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been up there. I could feel it in the way the air in my apartment felt heavier. Like someone had been standing over me all night. Watching. That night, I stayed up. I turned off every light. Sat in bed, wrapped in a blanket, phone recording. Nothing for hours. Then, 2:58 a.m. A thump. Then slow, deliberate pacing across the ceiling. Heel to toe. Not frantic. Not rushed. Just walking, like they were taking their time. I held my breath and watched the ceiling. At exactly 3:02. The footsteps stopped right above my head. I waited. Then, 3 knocks on the ceiling. From the other side. I jumped out of bed, heart racing. My first thought was the crawl space. Maybe there was a way in from the roof after all. Maybe someone was living up there. I opened the hallway closet, grabbed the stepladder, and climbed up to check the crawl space hatch in my ceiling. It hadn't been touched. Dust thick across the edges. No handprints. No movement. I even ran my finger across the latch, untouched. But when I put my ear to it, I heard breathing, not loud, not strained. Just steady, like someone lying on their stomach, inches above me, listening too. The next morning, I called the landlord, told him I heard noises upstairs. Heavy footsteps. Someone might have gotten onto the roof or into the walls. He laughed. You've got a solid concrete ceiling between you and the crawl space, and the roof sealed tighter than a drum. There's no way in. I pushed. Asked if anyone ever accessed the space for maintenance. Any workers up there recently? Nope, he said. No one's been up there in years. Then he added, you're the first person who's lived in that unit longer than 6 months. That stuck with me. 6 months? I moved in 4 months ago. I asked why no one else stayed. He hesitated. Then said, they just said it felt off, nothing specific. Just weird energy. Weird energy. Right. That night I didn't sleep. Around 2:40 a.m., my hallway light flickered. Then came the footsteps. This time, they started above the kitchen. Worked their way slowly across the ceiling. Stopped right over my bedroom again. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Then I heard something new. A voice, muffled, distorted, not from inside my apartment, through the ceiling. I crept to the middle of the room and stood directly beneath it, Thought it was saying something over and over. Let me down. Let me down. Let me down. Part 2. The voice didn't stop that, just that same phrase. Over and over. Let me down. Soft. Hoarse. Like it hadn't been used in years. I stood frozen beneath the ceiling. Heart racing, waiting for it to change, to scream. To go quiet, anything. But it just kept going. Calm. Begging. Let me down. Let me down. Eventually, I backed out of the room. Shut the door. I didn't go back in. I slept on the floor of the kitchen with the lights on, if you can even call it sleep. The next morning, I decided I needed proof, not just for my own sanity, for anyone I might tell. Because if I called the cops, they'd think I was either pranking them or having a breakdown. So I bought a motion-activated camera, one of those small security ones people use for pets. I angled it toward the ceiling in the bedroom, right under the crawl space hatch. I didn't expect much. That night, I lay awake on the couch again, watching the live feed on my phone. Nothing happened until 2:59 a.m. Then, a shadow moved across the ceiling. No source. No shape, just darkness passing under the lens like someone walked over the camera. But here's the thing. The camera glitched. Only for half a second. Just enough for the frame to skip. When it came back, the crawl space hatch in the ceiling was open. I ran into the room, but by the time I got there, the hatch was shut again. Dust still hanging in the air, floating in the glow from the hallway light behind me. I climbed the ladder. Again, checked the latch. It was warm to the touch, and there, on the rim of the ceiling around it, were 4 faint fingerprints. Just smudges in the dust, long, thin, like they'd been pushing down from the inside. That morning, I emailed the video to my landlord. I didn't ask anymore. I told him, someone's in the crawl space. I have proof. I need this inspected today. He didn't respond until almost 4 p.m. His email was short. I'll bring a contractor. Be there at 6. They showed up late. Landlord and some guy in a stained jumpsuit named Doan. Didn't say much. Doan looked at the ceiling like he already knew what he'd find. He climbed up, shined a flashlight into the crawl space. His face went weird, like he was trying to stay calm, but something was off. Then he said, "There's nothing up here. But someone's been here." He held up a scrap of cloth, looked like part of a shirt sleeve, torn and faded. Soaked in something brown and dry. Then he paused, reached deeper inside, pulled out a shoe. Small, like a woman's. The laces were still tied. My landlord started muttering under his breath. I caught him say, "Not again." I asked again. He shook his head, like he hadn't meant to say it out loud. Said the crawl space would be sealed shut the next morning. But that night, everything got worse. At 3:08 a.m., the camera caught movement. Not just shadows. A hand, grayish, thin, reached down from the open hatch. It hovered, then slowly curled into a fist, like it was trying to grip something that wasn't there. Then it vanished, and the hatch slammed shut. I left the apartment that night, took everything important, booked a hotel, and started looking for a new place. I didn't even bother emailing the landlord again. I already knew whatever was above me. It wasn't gone. 2 days later, I got a voicemail from my neighbor, Angie. She lives down the hall in 5C. She sounded panicked. Said, "You need to call me back. That thing, I think it's in the walls now." She said she'd been hearing breathing behind her bedroom outlet, that her cat refused to enter the room, that something was scratching at the floorboards underneath her bed. Then she whispered, almost crying, "I don't think it's in the crawl space anymore. I think it's under the floor now." I moved out the next day, didn't break the lease, just left. Let them keep the deposit. It wasn't worth it, but I still think about that voice. That slow, strained whisper, "Let me down." And I keep wondering, what if someone did let it down once? What if it's not in the ceiling anymore? Because now it's walking among us? I didn't know what was wrong at first. Just this weird sound under the kitchen sink, like gurgling, bubbling, like water running through old pipes. The building's ancient, so I figured it was normal. But then it started sounding wet. Not like water, like breathing, like someone choking on water, like someone drowning. And then I heard her scream, not loud, not at first, just a short, broken sound, like a gasp through gritted teeth, like someone trying not to make noise, but failing. It came straight up through the drain, backed away from the sink so fast I slammed into the fridge behind me. I stood there, heart pounding, staring at the stainless steel basin. Nothing moved. The faucet was off. The drain was dry. But I swear to God, I heard someone whispering my name. I live alone. Small one-bedroom unit in a crumbling building that smells like old paint and trapped heat. I've lived here a year. I've heard weird plumbing, weird neighbors, weird everything, but nothing like this. I didn't even tell anyone that first night. What was I supposed to say? Hey, someone screamed up through my sink? They'd think I was having a breakdown. So I waited. And of course the next day, everything was fine. No sound. No voices, just normal creaky pipes. I almost convinced myself it was a dream, until 2 nights later. When it came back, this time it was louder. The gurgling started at 1:22 a.m., not a second earlier. I checked. I was doing dishes, earbuds in, podcast playing. But suddenly, my left ear went hot, like blood rushed through it too fast. I paused the audio and pulled the earbuds out, and I heard it again. The gasping, more frantic now, and then her voice, wet and panicked, coming from the drain. Help. Please, I'm still here. My knees went weak. I just stared, frozen. Then the drain shuddered. Just for a second, like something deep inside had pressed upward. A ripple ran through the metal, and the air that burst out of it smelled like rot, like someone had died in there. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat on the couch, lights on, sink in full view. I couldn't stop glancing at it, expecting it to bubble or whisper or scream again. But it didn't. Single quotes. Not again, not that night. The next day, I went down to the basement laundry room. Noticed the maintenance guy, Paul, sitting on an overturned bucket. We made small talk, and I asked casually, "Hey, anything ever weird with the plumbing here?" He paused, raised an eyebrow. Then he said, "Is it the kitchen sink?" That made my skin go cold. I asked him what he meant, and he said, "Some of the older units, water lines run weird. Backed up stuff from the sublevel sometimes gets trapped in the verticals. Makes weird noises." I asked him if he ever heard voices. He didn't answer right away. Then, dead serious, he said, "You should stop listening." And walked away. I went back upstairs and did something I never thought I'd do. I stuck my phone into the drain and hit record. Not deep, just barely inside. I left it there for 15 minutes. Mic on. When I played it back, I didn't hear much at first, just the usual hollow hum. Water settling in pipes. But then, right around the 9-minute mark, I heard a faint voice. Far away. Faint. "Can't breathe, please." And then clear as day. "I see you." I dropped my phone. I left the apartment that night and stayed with a coworker. Told him I had a leak. No way I could explain what was actually happening without sounding completely unhinged. I tried to sleep on his couch, but every time I closed my eyes, I heard the voice again in my head. The tone, that desperation, and the worst part? I started to think I recognized it, not like a friend, exactly, but familiar. Like I'd heard her voice in the building before. Went back home in the morning. Everything looked normal, but something felt off, like the shadows were deeper, like the air was thicker, like the sink was waiting. That afternoon, I went digging, pulled up the building's name and did a search. Inspection records, Violations anything, tons of mold complaints. Water pressure issues. Tenants moving out mid-lease. And one article from 7 years ago, buried in an old local blog. Missing tenant believed to have fallen through sublevel access shaft. No name listed. No follow-up story. The photo showed police cars parked outside my building. I brought it to Paul the next day. Cornered him while he was checking meters on the second floor. I said, "You knew about this, didn't you?" He didn't look surprised. "Just tired," he said. "She fell during a plumbing inspection. Back when the building was still under different ownership." I asked, "Fell where?" He said, "Sublevel 3. Below the basement. It's sealed now. Caved in years ago." I asked if they ever found her. He just shook his head, then added, "That wasn't the last scream someone heard through the pipes." That night, I dreamt of the sink, the chrome basin gleaming like a mirror. Only instead of reflecting me, it showed someone trapped inside. Her hands pressed against the metal, mouth wide, eyes wild. And when I woke up, my faucet was dripping black water. Part 2, I called the landlord the next morning. Told him about the black water. Told him the sink smelled like something had died in it. He barely sounded awake. Sighed, "It's probably corrosion. Happens when you don't run the faucet often." When I told him I used the faucet every day, he paused for too long, then muttered something about sending someone next week. I hung up and went to the kitchen. The water had stopped dripping. The sink was dry, but the metal was still stained, a dark ring around the drain. Like something had pooled there and never fully left. That night, I tried to sleep with my bedroom door shut, hoping the closed space would make me feel safer. At 1:22 a.m. on the dot, right when it always started, I heard the gurgling again, only this time it was louder. Wet. Frantic. The pipes groan, not like water moving. Like something pushing through. And then the scream came, a full, sharp, desperate scream, cutting up from the sink like it was right under the floorboards. "Please help me." I ran into the kitchen, phone in hand, shaking. The basin was vibrating. And the faucet was running, on its own. Thick, black water gushing into the sink and swirling in the bowl. And just for a second, I saw something in it. A face, not clearly. Not like a reflection. Like it was in the water, pushed up against the surface from below. Wide eyes, bloated, cheeks. Mouth open. And when I reached to shut the faucet off, the water turned ice cold. Not normal cold. Painful cold. Like sticking your hand into a frozen lake. I ripped my hand back, and the water stopped on its own. I didn't touch the sink for 2 days. Didn't go near it. Ate takeout. Brushed my teeth in the tub. Avoided the kitchen like it was radioactive. I thought maybe if I ignored it long enough, it would stop. But on the third night, I woke up coughing. The air in my apartment was thick, humid, smelled like mildew and copper. I went to the living room, and the floor was wet. Not flooded, just wet. Like condensation. I followed the trail back to the kitchen. The sink was bone dry. But the cabinet beneath it? Dripping. I opened it slowly. Inside was my garbage bin, a few cleaning bottles. And the sound. Breathing. Right behind the wall. It was faint, but I swear it was right there. And then a voice said, "Why didn't you help me?" I slammed the cabinet shut and backed out of the room. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't sit down. Didn't stop shaking until the sun came up. The next morning, I emailed that old blog where I found the missing tenant story. Didn't expect a response, but a few hours later, I got one. The message was short. Her name was Kara. She lived in your unit. 1B. They attached a blurry scanned photo. It was an old tenant record, yellowed and water-stained. The name Kara Linton circled in red. Under notes, it read, "Plumbing complaint, possible leak." Said she heard someone screaming in the walls. Last seen June 14th, 2016. My stomach dropped. June 14th was 7 years ago to the day. That night, I sat on the kitchen floor, not to be brave. Just because I was tired of being afraid, I opened the cabinet again, placed my phone inside, hit record, then I waited. 5 minutes passed, 10, and then faintly, "Why did you leave me down here?" I grabbed the phone, heart in my throat, but when I checked the file, it was corrupted, just static. I decided to do something insane. I removed the entire panel at the back of the cabinet. Behind it was just concrete and pipework, a narrow, black chute running vertically down through the building. I don't know what I expected to find, but it was warm. The air rushing up through it was humid and sour, like dead flowers and copper pipes. I held my phone into the opening again. Hit record. This time, I watched live. At 1:22 a.m. The screen glitched. Just for a moment, like interference. Then I heard something on the live feed, a whisper. "Look behind you." I spun. No one was there, but the kitchen light flickered, once, twice, then went out. The glow from my phone was the only thing left. I backed out of the room. Slept in the hallway outside my apartment that night. Like some kind of escapee. No dreams. Just silence. When I returned in the morning, the kitchen cabinet was open. I hadn't left it that way. On the floor below it, in the puddle of moisture, was something I hadn't seen before. A ring. Simple. Gold. Dirty. Bent slightly at the band. I picked it up with a towel and inspected it. Engraved inside, KL 2014. I called Paul. Told him I found something in the wall. That I knew Kara had lived in my unit. That her voice was still there. He went quiet on the phone for a long time. Then finally said, "You shouldn't be hearing her anymore." I asked what he meant. He said, "They tried to close it. Seal the vertical. They said the pressure was too unstable. The water kept coming back. So they capped the bottom. Shut it with cement." I asked if anyone checked if she was really down there. He didn't answer. The first time I saw him, I thought he was just another late-night food delivery guy. Bright yellow jacket. Black thermal bag slung over one shoulder. Head down, quiet. I was taking my trash out around 10 p.m. Our hallway light flickers constantly, so I barely caught more than a glance. But something about him felt off. He walked past me without looking up, heading toward Unit 2C. That's what stuck with me. 2C has been empty for months. I didn't say anything at first. The building's not exactly luxury, just a 5-unit complex at the edge of downtown, with old pipes and doors that stick when it rains. People come and go. Maybe the landlord finally rented 2C and didn't bother mentioning it. But still, I kept watching. Over the next week, I saw him 3 more times. Always around the same time. Between 10 and 11 p.m. Always wearing the same yellow jacket. The same black bag. Never carrying food. The weirdest part? He never knocked. Never buzzed. He'd just stop at the door to 2C. Stand there for a second, like listening. Then unlock the door and go inside. I told myself he was just a new tenant. Maybe a delivery guy on his day off. Maybe I was being paranoid, but I knew that unit was supposed to be vacant. So one night, I knocked on the landlord's door. He didn't open it all the way. Just peeked through the chain lock. When I asked if someone had moved into 2C, he shook his head immediately. Nope, still empty. Waiting on the city to sign off on the wiring. I asked, "So no one's been coming and going?" He frowned. "Not unless you've been seeing ghosts." Then he laughed. I didn't. That night, I waited in the stairwell. Lights off. Hoodie up, just sitting behind the stair railing, half hidden in shadow. At 10:46 p.m. I heard footsteps on the sidewalk outside. Then the main entrance buzzed, but no one opened it. A few seconds later, the front door clicked open anyway. I peeked around the railing. There, he was. Same yellow jacket. Same slow, stiff walk. But this time, I noticed something new. His delivery bag wasn't zipped shut. It was moving. Just barely. Like something inside was shifting. I stared, heart thumping. He didn't see me, just went straight to 2C like always. Pulled out a key. Walked inside. No knock. No food. No sound. I waited a few minutes. Then crept up to the door. I pressed my ear against it. At first, silence. Then I heard a click, like a light switch. Then a slow, dragging sound. Like furniture being moved. Or something being dragged across the floor. And under it. Breathing. Low. Raspy. But not from the man. It sounded closer, like it was right behind the door. Or under it. I backed away. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I walked past 2C and noticed something I hadn't before. The peephole was taped over, not from the outside. From inside the apartment. A torn piece of black electrical tape covered it perfectly. Like someone didn't want to be seen. Or didn't want to see out. That afternoon, I tried the handle when no one was around. Locked. But the doorknob was warm, not like from sunlight. There are no windows in that hallway. It felt like the air around it was just heavier. Like the heat you feel when someone's standing too close behind you. I left a note for the landlord, told him I heard movement in the supposedly vacant unit. That I saw someone enter with a key. No response. But the next day, the tape on the peephole was gone. And in its place, the peephole glass had been removed. Completely. Just a dark hole. Like whoever was inside wanted to see out, without being seen. That night, I did something stupid. I set my phone to record and slid it under the door of 2C. Lens up. I gave it 30 seconds. Pulled it back. When I played the footage, my throat went dry. At first, just darkness. Then shapes, the edge of a couch. An old wall heater, something unidentifiable in the far corner. Looked like a tarp. Then a face. Pale. Smiling. Pressed against the far wall. Way too close to the ground. Almost like someone was lying flat on their stomach, watching the door, watching me. I deleted the video. Not because I wanted to forget it, but because I was afraid someone else might see it. The next night, I heard the knock. 3 soft taps on my door. I looked through the peephole. No one there. I opened it a crack. Something was on my doormat. A note. Written on a yellow delivery bag sticker. 4 words. You shouldn't be watching. Part 2. I didn't sleep after finding the note. I sat on the couch with every light on, phone in one hand. A kitchen knife in the other. Pathetic, I know. But I kept thinking about that smile from the video. That thing laying flat in the back of 2C, staring at the door like it was waiting for me to come back. Or for someone to let it out. Around 2 a.m. I heard movement outside my apartment. Not footsteps. Wheels. I opened the door just a crack and looked into the hallway. The man in the yellow jacket was standing directly outside 2C again. Delivery bag slung over his back. But this time, he wasn't alone. He was pulling something. A cart, the kind movers use. Flat, metal, with old rubber wheels. And on top of it was a large, black trash bag. It wasn't tied shut, and from where I was, I could see fingers sticking out of the opening. Small, pale, motionless. I shut the door before he could turn. Held my breath. Listened. No footsteps toward my unit. No sound at all, but I heard the click of 2C unlocking, and the creak of the door as it opened again. Then nothing. The next morning, I went to 2C. The door was closed. As always. No smell. No signs of anything. But taped to the door, not on my side this time, was a flyer. One of those cheap black and white missing sheets. No photo. Just a name. Danica Lynn, age 24, last seen delivering food for App Runner. Read it 3 times before it hit me. That's the delivery app I use. I opened the app. Checked my recent orders. Nothing unusual until I went into the Help tab, looking for the live support chat. And I saw her name Danica. She was listed as the driver for an order I never placed, one that was marked as delivered to my address at 10:46 p.m., the same time he always showed up. Called the landlord again. No answer. I walked to his unit. No one home. But the door was unlocked. I know I shouldn't have. But I stepped inside. The place was trashed. Old paperwork everywhere. Fast food bags on the counters. Like he hadn't really lived there for weeks. On his coffee table was a folder. Tenant files. One page was half sticking out. It was for Unit 2C. I pulled it out. No name on it. No current resident. But someone had scribbled all over it in red ink. Stay out. Do not rent. Door locked from inside. That night, I tried calling the police. Didn't tell them everything. Just said I heard something suspicious. Maybe someone squatting in a vacant unit. They said they'd send someone out. No one came. But I did hear the man again. 10:46 p.m. Right on schedule. This time, I waited until he'd gone inside 2C. Then I crept down the hall. I stood right outside the door, barely breathing, and that's when I heard it. Chewing. Wet. Slow. Like someone trying to eat with their mouth open. Then the bag RUSTLED. And something moaned. It didn't sound human. It sounded like pain stretched into sound. Like someone being kept alive just long enough to know they shouldn't be. I ran back to my unit, locked every lock I had, put a chair under the knob. 2 days later, a guy from across the hall went missing. We weren't close. His name was Chris, worked nights, always wore headphones. Nodded at me in the elevator. He didn't show up to work. His door was still locked from the inside, but the landlord didn't report it. That was 3 days ago. No one's seen Chris. And now 2C has a new sticker on it. Same kind you see on delivery apps. White background, yellow border. Just 2 words in sharp block letters. Order received. I know what's happening now. He's not delivering anything. He's collecting. Last night, I woke up to a knock on my door. 3 soft taps. I looked through the PEEPHOLE. There was no one there, but something was sitting on my welcome mat. A food delivery bag. The same kind he always carried. I didn't open it. Just stood there, staring at it. Hand shaking on the doorknob. Eventually, I picked it up and carried it into the kitchen. Set it on the counter. It was ice cold. Waited almost 2 hours before I got the nerve to unzip it. Inside, my own photo. A printed black and white picture of me, standing at my window, looking out. Taken from the sidewalk. My curtains barely cracked. And under the photo, in the bottom of the bag, was a NAMA tag, cracked plastic. Dried blood on the edges. Danica. The first time I saw someone on the roof, at 3 a.m., I thought it was me. I know how that sounds. But I was walking back from the bathroom, passing by my bedroom window. And I just happened to glance out, and there I was. Or someone who looked exactly like me, standing on the roof of the next building over. 1 floor up, barely lit by the flickering rooftop bulb. Same hoodie. Same jeans. Same shoes. Same posture. Same everything. They were standing perfectly still, just looking at our building. Like they were waiting for someone to look back, like they were waiting for me. I blinked, shook my head, leaned closer to glass, and they were gone. Our building shares rooftop access with the one next door. A long rusted catwalk connects them, originally meant for fire safety, I think, but now mostly used by stoners and people looking for a quiet place to smoke. I'd been up there dozens of times. The door to the roof is never locked. Just a heavy push bar and a few creaky steps. I'd never been up there at 3 a.m., and I'd never seen anyone who looked like me. The next night, I stayed up. Not because of the rooftop thing, I told myself that was stress. A shadow. One of those weird dreams you don't realize is a dream until it's over. But around 2:56 a.m., I got this weird pressure behind my eyes. Like a headache forming, fast. I stood up to grab a glass of water past my bedroom window and froze. He was there again, same clothes, same blank stare, facing my window, UNMOVING. Except this time, he tilted his head, like he was examining me, like he was mirroring me. And I swear, when I stepped back, so did he. I ran to the roof. The air was freezing. The wind hit me the second I pushed open the stairwell door. The light overhead buzzed, casting long shadows on the gravel rooftop. I crossed to the catwalk. Looked toward the other building. Nothing. No one on their roof. No. Footsteps. No sound. Just wind and metal and the quiet hum of the city below. But when I turned around to head back, my bedroom light was on. I had left it off. And in the window, I saw something move. Just for a second. Just long enough to know that something was inside. I didn't go back in right away. I waited on the roof, pacing, heart pounding. I even called my own phone, let it ring 5, 6 times. No answer. Eventually, I went back downstairs. Opened the door slowly. Everything was quiet. The lights were off again. Nothing looked moved. But on my bed, there was a small wet footprint. Just one. Right in the middle of the blanket. The next morning, I texted my upstairs neighbor. Jonah, we're not close, but he's cool. Lives alone, night owl, probably awake half the time I am. Me. Hey, you ever see anyone on the roof late at night? Jonah, LOL me? Or like, other people? Me, not you. Someone weird. Around 3 a.m., he didn't reply right away. When he finally did, it was just one message. Stay inside tonight. I tried, I really did. I kept all the lights on. Played music. Scrolled for hours. Even moved my couch to block the window. But at 2:59 a.m., the music glitched. Just for a second. A quick distortion. Like my phone couldn't stream. And the air in my apartment changed. Got heavy. Like the pressure dropped all at once. I turned off the music. Stood up. The window was dark, but I felt something, like I wasn't alone. Like someone was standing behind me, perfectly still. I turned around. No one there, but the window had fogged up from the inside. And in the middle of it, written in a fingertip, look up, part 2. I didn't look up. Not right away. I just stood there, staring at those 2 words fogged onto the glass. Look up, until they started to fade. Until I couldn't tell if they'd ever really been there, or if my brain was breaking from lack of sleep. But eventually, I gave in. I stepped closer to the window, lifted my head, and looked up at the roofline of the building across from mine. He was there, standing right on the ledge, motionless. No flashlight, no phone, no expression, just same hoodie, same jeans. Same face, staring straight down at my window, like he'd been waiting the whole time. And then he smiled. Not big, not threatening, just a tiny twitch of the mouth that told me something terrifying. He saw me too. I shut the blinds and backed away from the window. Heart racing. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even try. Just sat in the corner of my room until the sky turned pale and the birds started chirping again. Like the world was fine. At 6:30 a.m., I finally texted Jonah again. Me. I saw him. Me. He was me. He replied instantly. Jonah. Did he smile? I didn't answer, but he sent one more text, and it's been burned into my brain ever since. If he smiles at you, it's already too late. I didn't leave the apartment for 2 days. Didn't open the windows. Didn't even shower. I thought maybe if I just ignored him, it would stop, but it didn't. On the 3rd night, at 3:03 a.m., I heard my doorknob turn. Just once. A full click. Like someone tried it, like someone expected it to open. And then, Nothing. Just silence. The next morning, I texted Jonah again. Me. Have you seen him again? No response. An hour later, I went upstairs. Knocked on his door. No answer. But something smelled off, like mildew and metal and sweat soaked into the carpet. I waited outside for a few more minutes, then gave up. But as I turned to leave, I noticed something wedged under his door. A photograph. I pulled it out. It was grainy, black and white. Obviously taken in low light. It showed the rooftop, our shared rooftop. And in the center, two figures. Both facing each other. Both of them. Jonah. One with his hands in his pockets, the other smiling. I never saw Jonah again after that. The landlord said he moved out in the middle of the night. Left everything behind. Didn't even take his laptop. The smell upstairs got worse after that. 2 nights ago. I finally worked up the nerve to go back onto the roof. I told myself I just needed to see it one more time in daylight, to prove it was just in my head. It was empty. No footprints. No signs of life. Just cracked concrete and a broken patio chair tipped on its side. But as I stood there, staring across at the other building, I noticed something scratched into the rusted railing in front of me. Faint but clear. You look too long. Last night, I tried to sleep. I'd taken a sleep aid, closed the blinds, did everything I could to block out the idea of him. But at exactly 3 a.m., I woke up. No alarm. No noise. Just this feeling. Like something was in the room. The air was ice cold. My breath fogged in front of me. I sat up. Slowly. Turned toward the window. It was wide. Open. And sitting on the windowsill was my hoodie. The one I hadn't worn in days. The one he'd been wearing. I don't think I'm alone anymore. Not really. I keep hearing footsteps on the roof, even during the day. I see flashes of my own reflection in windows that aren't mine. I've caught myself smiling in mirrors when I wasn't even thinking about it. Not just a smile, his smile. I found the closet by accident. It was my 3rd night in the apartment, and I was trying to hang a shelf in the bedroom. I drove the first screw in too deep and heard it puncture something hollow, not drywall, not insulation, something thin. When I pulled the screw out, air hissed out of the wall. That's when I noticed the weird seam, this faint, uneven line running vertically behind the dresser. Like the wall had been patched hastily. The paint didn't match. The texture was off. And when I knocked on it, it echoed like there was a space behind it. So I did something stupid. I grabbed a utility knife and started cutting. The drywall peeled away in large chunks, brittle and flaking like old parchment. Behind it was a narrow door. No knob. Just a thin metal outline, painted over and forgotten. But it was a door, unmistakably. And the second I touched it, the air in the room changed. Cooler, heavier, like someone had opened a freezer full of dust and stagnant air. I should have stopped, but I didn't. I pried the door open with a screwdriver and looked inside. It was a closet, tall, narrow, maybe 2 feet wide. No shelves, just bare concrete walls. And something on the floor. Something that looked like a pile of broken mirrors. Not glass. Not full-sized. Just sharp shards. Like dozens of them. Some were small enough to fit in your palm. Others jagged and wide. They were covered in dust and dark flecks I didn't want to identify. When I picked one up, I saw my reflection, warped and flickering, for a split second. I thought it smiled at me before I did. I dropped it, backed out, closed the little door. And immediately pushed the dresser in front of it like I was trying to unsee the whole thing. That night, I dreamed of glass cracking beneath my feet. Not breaking, just cracking. Over and over. A slow, patient sound. Like something was crawling just under the surface. Watching. Waiting. The next morning, I convinced myself it was just a weird construction left over. Some old access closet someone forgot to seal. Maybe a maintenance mistake. But when I asked my landlord about it, his response chilled me. That unit shouldn't have had a closet behind the wall. I asked if maybe the previous tenant had done it themselves. He hesitated, then asked, "Which unit are you in again?" When I told him 4B, he didn't say anything for a few seconds, then quietly said, "You should leave that wall alone." I told myself he was just being dramatic. That old buildings always have quirks, right? But the next night, I started hearing things die. It started with a sound like scratching, coming from the bedroom wall. Right where the closet was. Slow, rhythmic, like fingernails dragging along concrete. Then came the whispering. I couldn't make out words. Just a voice, soft, breathy, moving in and out like someone was speaking from behind a thin sheet of plastic. It didn't sound angry. It sounded lonely. I moved the dresser away again. Just a few inches. Just to look. The door was still shut. But the mirror I dropped was no longer on the floor. It was standing upright, propped against the back wall of the closet. And written across it, smeared in something brown and dried, was a word. "Stay." I slammed the closet door shut and nailed the drywall back over it, covered it with tape. Moved the dresser back again, tried to forget. But something didn't want to be forgotten. That night, I heard the mirror crack. From inside the wall. Part 2. I didn't sleep after I heard the mirror crack. I just sat in bed, staring at the wall behind the dresser, trying not to breathe too loud. I kept thinking, if I didn't move, didn't acknowledge it, maybe it would stop. Maybe I hadn't really heard it. But around 3:20 a.m., my bedroom got cold. Not open window cold, wrong cold. Like all the heat had been pulled out of the walls. And I heard something behind the drywall whisper, "You shouldn't have shut it again." I left the apartment the next morning, went to work like nothing was wrong, even though I couldn't focus on anything. Every hallway, every reflection, I kept thinking I saw something in the corner of my eye. My own face, but off, quieter, sharper, like it was watching me. When I got home, I stood in front of the dresser again, hand on the top drawer, not just listening. No scratching. No whispers. Just silence. I waited. Then I said, out loud, "I didn't mean to trap you." I don't know why I said that, but the second I did, something inside the wall breathed. I felt it, warm air, one long, careful exhale through the seam in the drywall. I moved the dresser, ripped the tape away, and the crack in the drywall I'd sealed the night before was gone. But the door? It was open. This time, the mirror wasn't propped up. It was hung on the back of the closet wall, like someone had mounted it, only it wasn't reflecting me. Not fully. It showed the room behind me. Yeah, but not me. Where I should have been standing. There was nothing. No reflection at all. Just a faint, blurry outline. Like something had been erased. Then the image shifted. The closet in the mirror was bigger, deeper, endless. Like it didn't have a back anymore. And something was moving inside it. Slow, long shapes, like limbs that didn't bend right. I slammed the closet door shut and put 3 nails into it this time. I didn't care if it ripped the wall apart. I just wanted it gone. That night, I locked myself in the living room, but at 3:07 a.m., the TV turned on by itself. Static. No input, just a low buzz filling the apartment. Then, for a split second, the screen flashed an image. The bedroom. My bedroom. Camera angle from inside the closet. I saw my bed. I saw myself asleep. And I saw the closet door slowly creaking open. I unplugged the TV and ran outside. I didn't stop until I was 2 blocks away. Slept in my car. Didn't go back until noon the next day. Everything looked normal when I returned. No signs of anything, but my bed was soaked. Not with water. With something thick, greasy, like oil or sweat or blood, maybe, but black and cold. And on the wall above the headboard, written in dripping strokes, was one sentence: "You closed the only door I had." I moved out the next morning. Told the landlord I had family stuff. Didn't even ask for the deposit. He didn't seem surprised. When I handed him the keys, he asked quietly, "Did it try to come through the mirror?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. It's been 5 weeks since I left. New place. Different city. But 2 nights ago, I noticed a patch of drywall behind the coat rack that doesn't match the rest. A faint seam. Uneven paint. Last night I tapped on it. It echoed. I found the closet by accident. It was my 3rd night in the apartment, and I was trying to hang a shelf in the bedroom. I drove the first screw in too deep and heard it puncture something hollow, not drywall, not insulation, something thin. When I pulled the screw out, air hissed out of the wall. That's when I noticed the weird seam, this faint, uneven line running vertically behind the dresser. Like the wall had been patched hastily. The paint didn't match. The texture was off. And when I knocked on it, it echoed, like there was a space behind it. So I did something stupid. I grabbed a utility knife and started cutting. The drywall peeled away in large chunks, brittle and flaking like old parchment. Behind it was a narrow door. No knob. Just a thin metal outline. Painted over and forgotten, but it was a door, unmistakably. And the second I touched it, the air in the room changed. Cooler, heavier, like someone had opened a freezer full of dust and stagnant air. I should have stopped, but I didn't. Pried the door open with a screwdriver and looked inside. It was a closet. Tall, narrow, maybe 2 feet wide. No shelves, just bare concrete walls, and something on the floor. Something that looked like a pile of broken mirrors. Not glass, not full-sized, just sharp shards, like dozens of them. Some were small enough to fit in your palm, others jagged and wide. They were covered in dust and dark flecks I didn't want to identify. When I picked one up, I saw my reflection, warped and flickering. For a split second, I thought it smiled at me before I did. I dropped it, backed out, closed the little door. And immediately pushed the dresser in front of it like I was trying to unsee the whole thing. That night, I dreamed of glass cracking beneath my feet. Not breaking, just cracking. Over and over. A slow, patient sound. Like something was crawling just under the surface. Watching, waiting. The next morning, I convinced myself it was just a weird construction left over. Some old access closet someone forgot to seal. Maybe a maintenance mistake. But when I asked my landlord about it, his response chilled me. That unit shouldn't have had a closet behind the wall. I asked if maybe the previous tenant had done it themselves. He hesitated, then asked, "Which unit are you in again?" When I told him 4B, he didn't say anything for a few seconds, then quietly said, "You should leave that wall alone." I told myself he was just being dramatic. Old buildings always have quirks, right? But the next night, I started hearing things. It started with a sound like scratching, coming from the bedroom wall. Right where the closet was. Slow, rhythmic. Like fingernails dragging along concrete. Then came the whispering. I couldn't make out words. Just a voice, soft, breathy, moving in and out like someone was speaking from behind a thin sheet of plastic. It didn't sound angry. It sounded lonely. I moved the dresser away again. Just a few inches. Just to look. The door was still shut. But the mirror I dropped was no longer on the floor. It was standing upright, propped against the back wall of the closet. And written across it, smeared in something brown and dried, was a word. "Stay." I slammed the closet door shut and nailed the drywall back over it. Covered it with tape. Moved the dresser back again. Tried to forget. But something didn't want to be forgotten. That night, I heard the mirror crack. From inside the wall. Part 2. I didn't sleep after I heard the mirror crack. I just sat in bed, staring at the wall behind the dresser, trying not to breathe too loud. I kept thinking, if I didn't move, didn't acknowledge it, maybe it would stop. Maybe I hadn't really heard it. But around 3:20 a.m., my bedroom got cold. Not open window cold, wrong cold. Like all the heat had been pulled out of the walls, and I heard something behind the drywall whisper, "You shouldn't have shut it again." I left the apartment the next morning, went to work like nothing was wrong, even though I couldn't focus on anything. Every hallway, every reflection, I kept thinking I saw something in the corner of my eye. My own face, but off, quieter, sharper, like it was watching me. When I got home, I stood in front of the dresser again, hand on the top drawer. Just listening. No scratching. No whispers. Just silence. I waited. Then I said, out loud, "I didn't mean to trap you." I don't know why I said that, but the second I did, something inside the wall breathed. I felt it, warm air, one long, careful exhale through the seam in the drywall. I moved the dresser, ripped the tape away, and the crack in the drywall I'd sealed the night before was gone. But the door? It was open. This time, the mirror wasn't propped up. It was hung on the back of the closet wall, like someone had mounted it. Only, it wasn't reflecting me. Not fully. It showed the room behind me. Yeah, but not me. Where I should have been standing. There was nothing. No reflection at all. Just a faint, blurry outline. Like something had been erased. Then the image shifted. The closet, in the mirror, was bigger, deeper, endless. Like it didn't have a back anymore, and something was moving inside it. Slow, long shapes, like limbs that didn't bend right. I slammed the closet door shut and put 3 nails into it this time. I didn't care if it ripped the wall apart. I just wanted it gone. That night, I locked myself in the living room, but at 3:07 a.m., the TV turned on by itself. Static. No input, just a low buzz filling the apartment. Then, for a split second, the screen flashed an image. The bedroom. My bedroom. Camera angle from inside the closet. I saw my bed. I saw myself asleep. And I saw the closet door slowly creaking open. I unplugged the TV and ran outside. I didn't stop until I was 2 blocks away, slept in my car, didn't go back until noon the next day. Everything looked normal when I returned. No signs of anything, but my bed was soaked. Not with water. With something thick, greasy, like oil or sweat or blood, maybe, but black and cold. And on the wall above the headboard, written in dripping strokes, was one sentence: "You closed the only door I had." I moved out the next morning. Told the landlord I had family stuff. Didn't even ask for the deposit. He didn't seem surprised. When I handed him the keys, he asked quietly, "Did it try to come through the mirror?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. It's been 5 weeks since I left. New place, different city. But 2 nights ago, I noticed a patch of drywall behind the coat rack that doesn't match the rest. A faint seam. Uneven paint. Last night I tapped on it. It echoed. I saw her again yesterday. Same red sweater. Same silver gray hair tied in that low bun. Same thick glasses. Same small wave with 2 fingers. Every time I run into her in the hallway, she does that. Nods, smiles, and waves like we're old friends. Sometimes she says something like, "Going out for groceries?" Or, "Don't forget your umbrella." Her name is Mrs. Holloway, and I'm telling you right now, she moved out in 2009. I remember it clearly, because I helped her carry boxes to her son's car. I remember the "for sale" sign that stayed in her window for 3 months after. I remember the unit sitting empty for a year until the building converted it to storage. But now she's back, and she never left. It started 3 weeks ago. I was coming home from work, juggling groceries and my laptop bag, when I saw someone ahead of me in the hallway. Mrs. Holloway, She was locking the door to Unit 1D, her old unit. I froze. She turned, smiled, and said, "Oh, you look tired, dear. Long day?" My mouth opened, but nothing came out. She looked the same. Not aged well, the same. Like someone had freeze-framed her from 15 years ago and pressed play again. I nodded. Fumbled out something like, "Yeah, long day," and walked past her. When I glanced back, the hallway was empty. I told myself it was a new tenant. Maybe someone who looked like her. It happens. But the next time I saw her 3 days later, she was standing at her old mailbox. Key in hand, turning it slowly. Mail in her other hand. A newspaper. I only saw it for a second before she slipped back into Unit 1D and closed the door behind her. That was impossible. The mailboxes were wreck-eyed in 2012. No old tenant key would work, and 1D is supposed to be sealed. I called Mark, our building manager. He's been here longer than I have. Used to know every tenant by name. I asked him casually if anyone had moved into 1D recently. He paused. Then said, "Nobody's in 1D. That unit's just for maintenance access now. Pipes run through it." I asked if he was sure. He got annoyed. "I'm positive. I'm the one with the keys. What's this about?" I didn't answer that night. I sat outside 1D with the lights off and my back against the wall. At 2:14 a.m. I heard movement, a shuffle of slippers on tile, then a slow, soft humming. The tune was familiar, something old-fashioned, like a lullaby or a church hymn, and then the smell, not rotting or sour, just old. Like mothballs and dusty lace, like pages from a book that hadn't been opened in decades. The doorknob creaked. I held my breath. The door opened half an inch, just enough for a pale eye to peek out. It blinked once, and then closed. Again, I knocked on her door the next morning. Don't know why. I told myself I just wanted to see if she'd answer in daylight, if maybe somehow I was being tricked. No answer. I bent down, looked under the door. Just a crack of darkness. Nothing else. I was about to leave when I noticed something at the corner of the mat. Piece of paper, folded neatly. I picked it up. It was a grocery list. Written in slanted, careful handwriting. Eggs, tea, white thread, Polaroid film. Who still uses that? And at the bottom, in shaky cursive, don't forget the front door sticks. Lift before you turn. Part 2. All day at work, I kept thinking about her handwriting. How precise it was. How old-fashioned. It wasn't a replica. It was exactly the same as I remembered. Like she hadn't written anything in the years she'd been gone and just picked up where she left off. That night, I sat on my couch, staring at that grocery list. When the hallway light flickered, I almost dropped it. I walked slowly toward the peephole. The hall was empty. But as I leaned closer, I smelled it again, that old paper, mothball scent, creeping through the draft around my doorframe. And then I heard it, a soft hum. The same lullaby, coming from Unit 1D. The next morning, I went back to Mark's office with a plan. Drag him downstairs if I had to. Make him unlock the damn door, show him what I'd seen. But the office was dark, door locked, lights off. No sign of him. There was a note taped to the glass in messy marker. Back soon. It looked like it had been there for days. Dust had gathered on the tape. That night, I finally snapped. I marched to 1D, heart pounding, and knocked out once. Twice. 3 times. Silence. I reached for the doorknob. It turned. Not easily, it stuck. But then I remembered the note. Lift before you turn. I did. The lock clicked open. I pushed the door. A cold draft washed over me. Inside, everything looked preserved, like her apartment had never been emptied. Her floral couch, her knickknacks, the little embroidered pillows with cats on them, the old radio in the corner, a faint layer of dust on everything, undisturbed dust, except for a straight path from the door to the kitchen, like she still walked it every day. I whispered, "Mrs. Holloway?" No reply, but the radio crackled once. I stepped further inside. The kitchen table was set, one plate, one teacup. Steam rising from the cup. Fresh tea. Still. Warm. My breath hitched. Behind me, the front door closed, quietly, deliberately. I turned. No one was there. When I looked at the hallway mirror by the bathroom, I saw something pinned to the frame. A Polaroid. I pulled it down with shaking hands. It was a picture of me. Standing in the hallway last night. Looking through my peephole, taken from behind. I almost dropped it. Then I noticed the handwriting on the bottom edge. "I'm glad you stayed." The radio clicked. The volume dial turned on its own. Static filled the room. Then a voice, trembling, breathy but familiar, spoke through the noise. "Don't stay too long." I spun toward the radio. The voice wasn't hers. It was Mark. I grabbed the nearest drawer handle and yanked it open. Silverware rattled. A sharp kitchen knife gleamed. I held it like my life depended on it. And then a slow creak. The bedroom door at the end of the hall opening. Inch by inch, a shadow spilled out. Small, frail, like someone leaning just slightly out of sight. Double quotes, Mrs. Holloway. I whispered, barely breathing. The humming started again, not from the bedroom. From the walls. I stumbled toward the front door and nearly screamed. The knob was gone, not broken. Gone. Seamless. Wall where the lock used to be, like the apartment, was sealing itself. I turned back toward the hallway. Red sweater stepped into view. Her face was wrong. Not monstrous. Not rotting. Just empty. Emotion wiped smooth. Eyes open too wide, too still. Skin waxy, like a mannequin brought to life. She raised her hand, the two-finger wave she always gave me. But her arm shook, like the gesture wasn't voluntary. Like someone was forcing her to be polite. "I didn't leave," she whispered. Her voice scraped like something dry and brittle inside her was coming loose. "They never let me leave." I backed into the kitchen. Knife trembling in my hand. She didn't step closer. She just stared. That thin, stretched smile forming painfully, like her face remembered the expression, but her muscles didn't. I asked, though I already knew the answer, "Who's they?" She looked past me, toward the wall where the pipes ran. Where the building groaned at night. Where the air sometimes felt crowded. Her voice barely made it out. "The ones who stay." Her head twitched sharply. "After you go." Asterisk. Suddenly, every faucet in the apartment turned on. Screaming water blasted from the sink, the shower, the bathroom pipes, but the water wasn't clear. It was gray. Thick. Like runoff from concrete. The floor vibrated like dozens of heavy footsteps moving under it. She staggered backward, clutching her head. And then, her skin cracked. Like dried clay breaking apart. Light spilled from the cracks, bright white, blinding. The humming grew louder. Voices layered underneath it, hundreds of them, whispering in agony. I covered my ears and ran. I didn't look back. I didn't have to. I felt the whole building breathing behind me. I don't remember reaching the street. I don't remember calling 911. But I remember what the police said. "There's no Mrs. Holloway on record. The unit you're describing doesn't exist. That door doesn't lead anywhere." They walked me to where 1D should have been. Nothing. Just a blank wall, drywall smooth, freshly painted. No seam. No hinges, like the apartment had never been there at all. I moved out that weekend, didn't even pack everything. Some things can stay buried, but some nights, I wake up to the sound of a teacup clinking gently on a saucer, or the soft hum of that lullaby. And last week, A letter arrived in my mailbox, yellowed paper. Slanted handwriting. No return address. Just one line. You forgot your keys. The front door sticks. I heard footsteps above my ceiling again last night. That same pacing pattern. Slow, heavy, uneven. Like someone dragging a limp leg behind them. They always start just after 2 a.m. and go until dawn. And they're always directly above me. That wouldn't be a problem. Except I live on the top floor. There's nothing above me but an old, sealed attic crawl space. I called the building manager the first week it started, thinking maybe a raccoon got in or a maintenance guy left something open. He said the same thing every time. No one's supposed to be up there. Then he'd go quiet for a beat too long before saying, I'll look into it. But nothing ever changed. The pacing always starts the same, a deep thud. Like someone dropping their full weight from a few inches up. Then the dragging. Heel toe, back and forth across the ceiling above my bed. It sounds wrong. Too close. Like the boards are just one layer of drywall above me. No insulation. No space. Sometimes, if I lie perfectly still and hold my breath, I swear I can hear something breathing above me. Other times, it sounds like it's listening. A week ago, I finally broke. I climbed up into the attic myself. There's a rusted access hatch in the hallway closet. One of those wooden drop panels with a cheap pull string. I needed a stepladder to reach it. The hatch took force to open. Dust rained down. The wood creaked like it hadn't been disturbed in years. I pointed my flashlight into the darkness above and immediately gagged. The air smelled like wet rot, like something had been alive and decaying slowly in the heat. I climbed up. The attic was shallow, barely 4 feet high, and ran across the top of all the top floor apartments. The wood beams were covered in old insulation and what looked like dozens of small black stains, like oil leaks. Or something worse. I made it about 15 feet in when I found drag marks in the dust. Long, smooth trails that cut through the grime. They weren't footprints. They looked like fingers. As if someone had been crawling. Followed the drag marks toward the area above my unit. I knew where. I was based on the HVAC ductwork and a familiar bend in the Fabian pipes. That's when I saw it. A long, hairline crack in the floorboards above my apartment. Not just cracked, bowing downward. Like something had been pressing against it from above. The wood was splintered around the edges. As if someone had pushed so hard it almost caved. I knelt down and held my breath. And I swear, I felt warmth coming through it. Like a body, just on the other side. I left the attic in a panic. Didn't sleep that night. But the next morning, I did something worse. I checked the building registry. Every unit on my floor was accounted for, except 1.5E. The unit directly adjacent to mine. It's supposed to be empty. Has been for over a year. So I knocked. No answer. But the second I leaned closer to the door, I heard movement, soft shuffling, and the faintest voice muffled. Distorted, barely audible. Don't look up. That night, the ceiling cracked again, louder this time. I was lying in bed, staring at the plaster above me, when a sudden pop echoed through the room, like drywall splitting under pressure. I watched in real time as a thin, jagged split opened up. Just an inch, but enough to see movement behind it. Not shapes, not shadows, just something shifting. And then, dust started to fall, not gently pulsing, like something was breathing against the ceiling, stirring the dirt loose. I grabbed my phone to record it, but my camera refused to focus. The lens blurred every time I aimed it at the crack, but the microphone still worked. When I played back the recording, I could hear something I hadn't caught with my own ears. A whisper, looping over and over, like a chant. He lives in the quiet between the floors. I stayed at a motel the next night. I didn't care about rent, deposits, whatever. I just needed out. I slept for the first time in days. But when I came back the next morning to grab some clothes, the smell in my apartment hit me like a punch. The whole place reeked of old sweat and rust. I opened the door to my bedroom and almost screamed. The ceiling had collapsed, a perfect, clean break, like a circle had been punched inward from above. In the middle of the rubble was a single item, an old cassette recorder, still running, still hissing. I picked it up and pressed rewind. It whirred for a few seconds, then clicked, and played back one sentence in a low, trembling voice. "He's under the floor now." Part 2. I brought the tape recorder to the building manager. He barely glanced at it. I told him about the collapse, the ceiling, the breathing, the voice on the tape. All he said was, "We've had moisture issues in the crawl space." I told him this wasn't moisture. He looked at me, really looked, and said, "Then you should leave before it chooses you." I moved out that day, took what I could fit in my car, and left the rest. I spent a week sleeping on a friend's couch. Told them it was landlord drama. Didn't tell them I still woke up at 3:07 every night, even away from the building. Didn't tell them I could still hear the footsteps, faint, but there, pacing above me when I tried to sleep. Didn't tell them I checked every ceiling now, scanning for cracks. A week later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Blocked. I let it go to voicemail. All it said, in the same breathy voice from the tape, was, "There's no ceiling anymore." Click. I went back. I had to, not to stay, just to see. Just to prove I wasn't losing my mind. I parked 2 blocks away and walked up to the building just after sunset. The top floor windows were dark, except for one. Mine, soft yellow glow spilling onto the fire escape. Like someone was home, like someone had moved in, or hadn't left. I crept up the back stairwell. Quiet. Slow. At the top landing, I stopped. My apartment door was cracked open, and inside, nothing looked like I left it. The walls were bare. Furniture gone, just dust. And a thin layer of moisture on the floor, like sweat clinging to the wood. And above it all, a gaping hole in the ceiling, perfectly circular, 6 feet wide. Smooth edges, like something peeled it open. I stepped beneath it. The air was cold, pulling upward, like the room was breathing in reverse. I looked up. At first, I saw only black. Then, something moved. Far above. Pale, gaunt, a face, drifting slowly into view, eyes wide, mouth open, like it was screaming silently. But the sound wasn't coming from above. It was coming from under the floor. A low, bone-deep groan, vibrating up through my shoes, like the building itself was in pain. I backed away, turned to run. But the floor shifted beneath me. Just slightly, like something beneath the boards had rolled over in its sleep. The walls creaked. Not from pressure, from weight. From something crawling between them. I made it to the stairwell and didn't look back. I didn't stop running until I was 3 blocks away. But that night, in my friend's apartment, the light bulb in the kitchen burst. Glass scattered everywhere. And on the ceiling above the couch where I slept was a hairline crack. I swear wasn't there before. 2 nights later, my friend woke me up, said I was talking in my sleep, said I kept saying the same thing over and over. "He's under the floor now." I booked a cheap place 2 towns over. No top floors, no shared attics. Ground level only. First 2 nights, nothing happened. But on the 3rd, I woke up at 3:07 a.m.